very warm welcome, ladies and gentlemen. It's my privilege to have you all in yet another session of the Tech Thursday series. Tech Thursdays is an initiative of CXO TV to gather expert opinions and best practices on CXO's pain areas and technology challenges. In fact, the topics we select for the Tech Thursday series correspond well with our upcoming industry events. Today's topic is in line with the upcoming CXO Data Intelligence and Automation Summit and Awards 2023, scheduled on Friday, February 24th, 2023 in Bengaluru, starting at 10 a.m. On behalf of the CXO TV team, I would like to invite you all to attend the on-ground summit in Bengaluru. We are also looking for industry thought leaders and DNA experts as speakers at the summit. Please let us know your interest as a speaker for the summit. Further, nominations are open for various categories under the prestigious CXO Data Intelligence and Automation Awards for data, analytics, AI, and automation leaders. Details are provided at the end of the video and in the caption below. I will not take much of your time and request the experts to take today's discussion ahead with their thought leadership.
Right. Good afternoon, everybody. I welcome you to a very interesting topic of discussion. I think this is something that we've all been debating for a little time now, and it's becoming extremely more relevant as we go ahead. Data analytics, big data, all of this is becoming extremely critical to not just decision making in our organization, but also from point of view of how we focus on the customer and how we sort of target our marketing, sales efforts, our support efforts to make sure that our customer really is delighted by our services. So with this background, what I would like to do is that I would like to request each one of the panel members to please introduce yourself. Please give a little background about your current role and your previous roles, total work experience, any specific qualifications you want to highlight. Please keep it brief and let's start. Who wants to start first? Badri, can we start with you?
Sure. Hello, everyone. Badri Narayan. I'm a Senior Vice President and Head of Transformation, Architecture and Technology within HCL Technologies. I'm managing the IT for HCL now. Prior to this, for 25 odd years, I've performed various technology roles, largely for end customers, both American and European customers across organizations, Infosys, Wipro, and lastly with HCL itself for the last 10 years, managing customer delivery across technologies for European customers. So the last 2 years, I have taken on the role to transform our internal IT, not just for the customer, but more focused on internal.
Okay, so how long did you say you've been with HCL?
Now 11 years.
Oh, great. And this includes HCL Infosystems also?
No, it's just HCL Technologies.
Okay, because I was the CIO for HCL Infosystems 20 years back.
Okay.
Okay. Coming to Balakrishna.
Yes. Hello, everyone. I am Bala. I am the Director for IT and Digital at Manipal Academy of Higher Education, Manipal. Earlier to this role, I was the Vice President for and CIO for Manipal Global Education Services, Bengaluru, which is the education arm of Manipal Group. In my current role, you all know MAHE. MAHE is an educational organization or a university having over 30,000 plus students, 300 plus programs, varieties of programs being offered, about 30 plus institutions in this country. We have campuses in Manipal, Mangalore, Jamshedpur, Bengaluru, and Dubai. My current role is in terms of IT strategy planning, of course, IT operations as well for all the education establishments. But my primary role of late has been in the field of digital transformation for the next 3 years, in terms of creating a transformational roadmap aligning completely with the strategies of the university. That's my current role. I have got about 30 plus years of experience in the education industry so far.
How much? 30, you said?
30 plus, yes. Building systems and managing technologies right from student acquisition to graduation. And in all forms of education and academic delivery, whether it is campus form of education, certification programs, whether it is corporate education or distance learning and online learning programs, varieties of deliveries.
Great. Shuvankar, would you like to introduce yourself, please?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Rajiv. And hello, everyone. I am positioned as a Deputy CIO and Senior Director in Manipal Healthcare vertical. And I'm heading digital transformations, IT enablement, and process automations. And I'm heading IT operations also over here. And I'm in the Manipal with last 1.5 years. And in the healthcare industry, last 20 years. Total, I have 25 years IT experience, and last 10 years I am with different digital transformations engagement for the healthcare domain.
Great. We don't have Shibu Korean here, right? Is he joining us, or should we go ahead, Amit? Okay, let's go ahead. Sorry.
So we can continue. Mr. Shibu is not well, so we can continue the call.
Okay, thank you. So introducing myself, I have been in a CIO role for about 24 years, retired about 3 years back from Ernst & Young as the CIO for the India practice as well as Middle East and Africa. But before that, for 20 years, I was in the Indian Navy, and I'm basically a BTech electronics from BHU, MTech from IIT Kanpur. So I'm coming from a very broad range of experience, but at this time, I really find it's a very interesting phase to be in, and it's a phase where data is now called the new oil. Its value is finally being realized. But before we actually come to the value of data, what I would like to do again, if you could all explain a little bit about the data architecture in your organization in terms of, not just where it is stored, but from a legacy architecture point of view. I know a number of organizations, what has happened is that, applications got deployed at various points of time. And at that time, the current database and the storage, latest technology was very different. So in some cases, you find data in one cloud. In some cases, you find it with the service provider of the applications, like, for example, SAP. Or in some other cases, you will have data in-house in your own local data center. So to understand the current architecture and what are the challenges that you face, maybe that is something that we all need to share with each other so that we know from where we are coming from. So starting on the reverse order, Shuvankar, why don't you take on and explain a little bit about your organization?
Sure. Before just telling you the existing data architecture, what is there in the Manipal Health, I just want to explain the context of this. Basically, recently, Manipal has acquired this Columbia Asia All 11 Units India business and Bikram Hospitals in Bangalore. So why I am mentioning this? Because being a data administrator, from patients' experience point, we need to have a kind of unified data structure because of different variations of data structure in different organizations. That was the context, and what our main aim by this year, this calendar year, end of this calendar year, to create that unified data structure system on Google Cloud. What is our aim? But data architecture, when we are designing any data architecture for any organization, so you should keep different segments of those. One is like how you capture this data, right? First, that can be different sources. In healthcare industry, it is like a EHR patient platform where patient has been treated, and there will be like B2C applications like mobile app, your websites, and different WhatsApp chatbot. And there are certain clinical receipts are there, and some home care sensors are there, even post-care sensor mechanisms are there. So there are different sources are there. Because of different sources, data sources, we are getting structure, semi-structure, as well as your unstructured data. So this is about your how input is. So we have to define all those input. We have to understand all those data designing part. After that, data aggregators, how we define in our Google Cloud, on our cloud database particularly, we build some transformation engine, like how this data will be measured, how data will be cleansing and sequencing. All those part has been defined in the Google Cloud, in our where this data lake is being defined. After that, definitely there will be data storage part also. After that, we will define that analytical layer where this processing will be done on those kind of data, after cleaning of data, after authenticated data, right? And after processing, you will get the business analytic dashboards where your business decisions and KPIs will be defined. So these are the broad step to define this data architecture. And overall, there is a data governance layer. Nowadays, it's a data security is a major factor to handle all this data architecture model. And definitely there will be MDM, there will be data lifecycle management on those data architecture model. So all these things has been taken care in the Manipal hospitals.
Great. Coming to Badri, I know, HCL also has a lot of data pertaining to clients. So therefore, further silos are created when you are working to various clients. That complicates issues in software companies. So what would you like to add?
Yeah, so I would keep the goal simplistic. So while we are IT services company, there is still a lot to aspire for within our own data, right? So, and it's a very evolving field, right? Customer data comes, I would say, later, and very similar challenge to everything that you spoke about, Rajiv and Shuvankar as well. Like all organizations, we have all evolved over a period of time. Our systems, whether it's HR systems, see, for us, people is we are in the people business, right? So we are professional services. So everything we do is all for people. So people data or employee data is really at the center of us. That's like is how we run the operations. And within that, whether it's employee skills, employee data, employee salary, to each and every aspect of employee data is extremely critical for us. And due to the global nature, we operate in 50 odd countries. At various points of time, systems have got deployed, at different points of time with a different kind of a focus. And that results in a siloed system, whether we're talking about how HR and finance talks to each other. We have, in fact, same technology, SAP technology for finance and HR. Still, there are a lot of siloed data across this. But barring aside, right, so we do have a bunch of custom systems to cater to individual country requirements. And they obviously not necessarily don't talk to some of these ERP products, right, whether it's customer data or employee data. And that results in a lot of inability constraints for us in decision making. when we look at even simple things like, okay, what's been the journey of an employee? What's been the past history, right? How do I take care of a career of an employee? There are a lot of these use cases where we can finally get to it, but it takes a lot of effort and manual rejig of data to get that. And things are improving. Obviously, that's what we have been working on. And none of these systems have probably envisaged the complexity of a large organization of 200,000 people, sitting across 50 odd countries, kind of running operations. I think our organizations have also been a lot simpler earlier, and the systems have been designed for that. So we are unraveling some of this and are kind of typically had a point solution, and now we are relooking at it and kind of looking at it a lot more holistically and see how do we bring in efficiency in such an environment. This is all a lot of it on employee data. So we have a clear segregation of customer data. We don't bring customer data into our premises at all. They are all governed by individual customer privacy statements. So therefore, that is segregated in a fairly accurate fashion. But obviously, there are certain customer data that we need to process for our own internal operations. And that merged with our financial data is also a challenge in terms of getting, making sense and being able to analyze that and kind of contribute more to business and to customer. So these are probably, I would say, top challenges, and we have some solution for all of them, which I will talk about in subsequently.
Yeah, that's right. So we'll come to your initiatives for this year and further ahead a little later in the discussions. But that is definitely something that we would look forward to hearing from you. So coming to Bala, let's talk of the current challenges and the data architecture in your organization at the moment. You're on mute.
Yeah, thank you. We are in an education industry, and education is a regulated business, as all of you know. And then my story is no different from what Badri and Shuvankar mentioned. To specifically answer your question, so in our organization, I can see clearly three major portfolios of data that is getting created or generated. Structured or unstructured. So I'm not really touching upon the physical data, which is again, quite voluminous, right? See, data gets created in ERPs, in student and faculty and employee systems. We have got very, very large research data sitting with us. We have got teaching hospitals. While Shuvankar is managing the healthcare industry of Manipal with commercial hospitals, etc. We have got teaching hospitals with us. So a lot of patient data that exists with us, which is used for research and so on. So they are all structured data lying in some databases and things like that in the table form. All of us know that. Then the second major component of portfolio is coming from the academic delivery point of view. We have got huge video lessons, lecture capture videos, learning contents which are generated by faculty and even third party for us, and we have got website and portal contents. We have got social and media contents and so on. So they are all available in the form of a content management and delivery system with us, and also in content repositories. And the third major category would be the surveillance data on campus, right? So we have got huge, array of CCTV cameras, because education, we will have a lot of youngsters, students, and parents visiting the campus and things like that. So it's very important, and they're all coming from different parts of the country and outside the country as well. So it's important that the campus security is taken care, and we are very vigilant about the incidents that happen on the campus and so on. So a lot of CCTV biometric data that comes in, they are all in fact stored in a lot of storage arrays and DVRs and so on. So these are the major three portfolios where data and contents get created and generated day in, day out, right? And they are all really voluminous. And in terms of the architecture, we are distributed and hybrid. So we have got on-premise data stores. We have got S3 buckets, and then the cloud storage and things like that. We have got low-cost archival systems, targeted for data which are actually very least accessed. And so architecturally, once again, we have got two level of kind of data store. One is the primary, and there is a secondary store as well, just to ensure that we have got proper backup and disaster recovery in place. So long as the critical systems are concerned, we have identified and profiled certain systems in the university where some of the systems have been identified as critical, and they have been actually addressed differently with the proper back-to-back DR site being configured and up and running. So these are the various architectural pointers as far as the data organization and governance is concerned. In terms of challenges, rightly said, we are not still there. There will be redundancy, there will be duplicate data, and identity and access management, where we ensure that authorized people only access the right kind of data. These are some of the challenges typically we see when we manage data in the organization. Rajiv.
Great. So maybe we continue, Bala. Very interesting discussions emerging from this. I want to focus on a couple of aspects, about data, which is things like data integrity. How do you ensure that data availability? That specific data has to be available to specific people. You can't keep everything open. So there has to be access control mechanisms there. And all of this is very important when it comes to decision support systems. And, these days, all the decisions we take in an organization are supported so much by data. And with data analytics and data, all of this happening, data integrity becomes extremely important. So how do you take care of these sort of aspects for data in your organization?
This question is to me?
Yeah, we continue with you, Bala.
Yeah. Good. This is super critical. MAHE is an IOE. It's an Institute of Eminence. Okay, recognized by Ministry of Education, Government of India. And I told you in my earlier comments that it's a regulated industry, right? So data means credibility for us, right? And data is wealth. You said it's a new oil, but it is really wealth for us. Very important for a university to maintain credible data for the purposes of ranking, for the purposes of accreditation, and so on. There are so many accrediting bodies which visit us, physically, and then kind of assess the university's, criteria for accreditation and things like that. So there are. There is absolutely no choice but to be, very consistent in terms of consistent, and integrity should be top notch when we share data with these people. So that's it. Now, coming to what are the various measures that we take for data governance and compliance, I would like to touch upon three things. In terms of compliance, we have made an assessment with the help of a third-party consultant to kind of assess GDPR, gaps, and then privacy policy rollout, and so on and so forth. So that's one assessment we have done. In the process of this, we have created a data inventory. We have created a data lifecycle management system, and then we have also made the data classification. So this is all about seeing where is the source, how does it actually change hands both internally as well as outside the organization with service providers and things like that, and what is the retention policy, how long you have to keep the data. So we have got different set of stakeholders, right? We have got students, we have got alumni, we have got employers, we have got faculty, researchers, different set of stakeholders. So now what are the data items to be retained forever, and what data can actually be purged from time to time? So we have a retention policy, archival policy, etc., etc. So we went through a series of interventions, conversations, and things like that, and we really plotted the life cycle of the data from its source to its exit, right? So it has actually helped us in terms of mapping who is the data processor, who is the data principal, so on and so forth. We were able to kind of associate certain roles with this data items. Then the second strategy that we have taken is the data security, right? This is all about creating policies and processes. It's about data, working on data leakage prevention, working on data loss, protection against attacks, and then having some encryption methodologies implemented, access mechanisms through multi-factor authentication, and so on and so forth. So that was a huge exercise that we conducted in terms of picking up certain data security measures to protect our information assets. So that's the second major initiative that you have taken. Third is in terms of really classifying this data, very important. Like there is a CIA rating that we need to give with every data item, and then classify them into whether it is a public data, or is it for internal data, or is it highly restricted, confidential, and so on. The data security measures that MAHE has taken, and the compliance measures in terms of GDPR assessment and initiatives to plug the gaps, and also in terms of making data classification. I was talking about classifying the data into confidential, then highly restricted, internal, and then public, and so on. It really helps in terms of providing role-based access to the people. So I just mentioned identity and access management as therefore this is a good input for us in terms of preparing landscape for access, right? So it anyway talks about accessibility, but it's not see, the security doesn't mean not giving access. It means giving access to right people and authorized people. So, I don't want to claim that we are perfect there.
Yeah. So, different in the healthcare domain, and are the issues similar or specific? And where did you highlight that?
No, it's already the fact is that certain compliance data is highly restricted, and all to be taken care of the industry to industry. But the nature of data data protection is almost same. I believe.
I think there are two aspects. One is data integrity, and the other is data availability. Two things really which become extremely critical when it comes to decision data driven, and very specifically in terms of healthcare industry. How do you look at that?
So in healthcare industry, initially when it started, definitely it was not data driven, and healthcare industry is very late adapt of technology and this data-driven decision-making systems. Basically, initially there was an assumptions-based business, and it's kind of manual interventions and manual intelligence was there. But nowadays it's kind of, because of there are certain factors was also there, like the quality of data collections was absent clearly in last almost 10-15 years ago. Now it's kind of new eye-opening for any business in healthcare industry, that if I nurture the data, I can get more business portfolio, even more business funnel. So understanding the context of this data requirement and defining the KPIs, all those part of the data decision-making systems in our healthcare industry. And the visualizations of data, action plan, prioritizing of this data, what data need to be prioritized for the business and execute. And more of all, the learning loop. It's the end of the data decision-making system, basically. So in healthcare industry, the variations of data is too much. If I build some AI models here, build some even chatbot kind of technology in our systems, the learning of that bot requires a different kind of data. And trust me, in any organizations, in a single specialty, 2 doctors practices in different way. So these kind of variations are there. It's not a standard. So learning for any data decision-making models, learning is the main priority for us.
Right. So, Badri, I'm looking at these aspects, and then also considering the fact that data volumes are growing so fast. And, we already discussed about these legacy applications and how they have resulted in data in silos and distributed, physically also distributed on various different services. So how do you want to address these challenges in 2023 or maybe the next 1 or 2 years? Do you have any plans? What would you like to highlight here?
Yeah, sure. So I will start with the previous integrity and maybe bit cover on security also before moving on. I think if you look at data security, that's something which I would definitely call as one of the best practice from IT industry, right? Because on one side, we cater to every industry, whether it's financial industry or healthcare or manufacturing or retailer. So the compliance level, including governments, right? Compliance levels are, conglomerate of all of these rules. On the other side, our business demands that, people are distributed, people can bring their own devices, everything should be accessible everywhere. So the demand versus the requirements are like completely at 2 extremes, right? And how do you provide security and compliance in a way which is compatible to both the business needs as well as to what a customer wants from a security point of view has been a challenge. And we probably have done this, and most of the IT companies, and we including, have done tremendously good job. You all know the kind of backlash if something goes wrong in the data side, right, in an outsourcing business. So whether it's isolation, logical separation, physical separation of data, how do you kind of provide training? I think people don't talk about requirement of training from a security point of view, and we have a dedicated monitoring team looking at all the data being transferred and the confidentiality of it and privacy of it and kind of flagging off any issues proactively. So a lot of good practices have gone. We are putting more focus now on training because we want to avoid issues rather than have the issues and then catch it later. So prevention of security incidents is going to be has been and continue to be a big focus for us this year. When it comes to integrity, moving from security is the second aspect where I do want to take a view. Traditionally, if you see, most of the companies have taken a tech-centric view of data, right? So this data belongs to this technology or this application, this data belongs to this. And that is what has resulted in a very fragmented and a siloed data kind of a construct. And therefore, when you look at it, decision-making point of view together, it doesn't make sense. So we have actually embarked on a process-centric view of data. We have looked at end-to-end process, whether, how employee data moves from hire to retire, not look at individual transaction or individual application. And we have identified clearly a owner for, each data element on where it should be residing and ensuring that it's a single source of truth. Everybody should basically create a more composable data model. And, master data is obviously part of that strategy. So all of that is what we are doing to ensure that integrity is maintained, right? So that's on the data integrity. Coming to the bottom.
Please add on the data analytics part specifically.
Yeah, sure. So, we do have some analytics solution now, but if you don't have the hygiene sorted out, right? Hygiene of integrity, and bringing kind of a non-siloed data and kind of having data cross-functional, you will not be able to make good analytics. So everybody's got analytics platform. We also use, all the analytics, but how do you does it really enable decision making? That's a big question mark that comes. So if you look at our own stuff, traditionally we used to have all the HR data would be there in analytics platform, all the financial data will be in the same platform in a different cube, and all the customer data will be there in a different cube. There is very little that you can make sense across the board because data language is different, data elements are different, each one doesn't talk to each other, there is no single master data. So what we have done now is through this whole process-centric data design approach, we have basically said it's going to be a single source of truth. Doesn't matter where the data is so, kind of stored. It is going to be one single place. Everybody will access it there. So that upstream plugging is now ensuring that the downstream analytics is getting a much better, kind of quality of data. Earlier also decision making and reporting were available, but people couldn't make decision out of it because of the quality of data. Now that has significantly improved, and the decision enabling is becoming much better because of analytics.
Yeah, that is right. I mean, that is the foundation of all the data analytics that we do. So coming to Bala, why don't you also quickly talk about the plans for this year and the next maybe 1 or 2 years? If you have any specific plans, we're running out of time, so maybe we can do all this in 5 minutes. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll make it brief. Yeah, like Badri said, he's spot on. Like, if the source systems are not taken care, there is not much sense that you can make out of data. Analytics wouldn't make any sense if your source systems are not, data is not hygiene, right? So what we have also kind of done as a measure is to create that integrated data governance system where all these siloed or distributed data points are collected in one place. It's like a data warehouse, so to say. And then there are varieties of use cases, right? So there it could be used for reporting. It could be used for our specific purposes of sharing it with ranking and accreditation bodies. We have to integrate with today a lot of government systems like national, data repository, DigiLocker, and so on and so forth. We may have to sometimes integrate with the scholarship portals of the government and so on. So it goes without saying that data should be very consistent and of top quality. So we are addressing the problems of distributed data and then trying to converge in one place so that there is a single source of truth and the insights can be derived out of it, right? The reports and dashboards and things like that for decision making. Interventions of AI, ML, etc. is the next step of intervention and things like that. And what we have also done specifically to quickly name some of the initiatives, as I told you, we have rolled out data security and privacy policies across the organization. We have created a baseline security for all functions, say that these are the 10 things which all functions have to adhere to, right? And then there are certain custom security treatments that we have given to critical functions. And then we have appointed a data protection officer whose office is able to take care of all these data ownership and then its movement right from its creation to exit and so on. We are also conducting online risk and risk assessments so that there are certain self-healing and automatic mitigation that are possible for the purposes of compliance. And then we have also created a complaint redressal system, which is one of the requirements of GDPR. And all said and done, we still continue to make certain periodic assessments through third parties. So these are some of the initiatives we keep taking, and that would continue in the years to come as well.
Great. So Shuvankar, in conclusion, would you like to add what the plans that you have for this year and next, with a little focus on the data analytics part?
So two broader goal for this year. One is like definitely data security, since now a whole lot of data is going to cloud structure. And second is like how we can collect the data of a prospect to the consumers. Means it's maybe the patients, when he's not a patient, is a prospect. He can come through any social media, any websites, any kind of source, and became a patient. After that, post care and consumer, he became the consumer. So entire patient life cycle data should be kept in somewhere else, and it will be related each other. So that our analytic part should be strong enough and to find the new businesses also. One and second is obviously I mentioned is your data security, since it is going to cloud first. And third is we are looking on project is genomics. We are collaborated with Microsoft, and we are doing some sort of genome projects. So this is the three major projects we have taken for this FY 23-24.
Great. So I can see that we are all agreeing on one point, that it is nice to talk about data analytics, but until we are very sure about the quality and security and integrity of the data itself, which is the basic foundation, the analytics part won't work well. So I can see that we are all focusing in the right direction towards first making sure that the data is available, is authentic, data integrity is ensured, data security is ensured, and we build on that to support our decision support systems, data analytics, and these are areas where there is a lot of initiative happening these days. But you're absolutely right, and it's been a pleasure talking to all of you. Big learning for me that you're working in very, very interesting fields, and the focus that you have towards data in your organizations. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Wow, that was an interesting discussion on a very timely topic. Hope you all liked the session and have gotten many takeaways. We would love to have industry experts as speakers for our upcoming CXO Data Intelligence and Automation Summit and Awards 2023, scheduled on Friday, February 24th in Bengaluru. To attend the summit, join us as a speaker or sending your nomination for the prestigious CXO Data Intelligence and Automation Awards. You can scan the QR and register your interest in our event microsite. You can also visit the site through the link in the caption.
For more updates from CXO TV, please like and subscribe to our channel.